classic Nicoise salad, which is a French style salad. So I'm using fresh ahi because I have access to it. We're gonna talk about canned fish, beans, other substitutes, but this is the most involved way to make the salad, so I might as well teach you that, and then you can scale it back accordingly. If you've never eaten a Nicoise salad before, it includes things like potatoes as the starch. It's typically served in more spring and summertime, and we work with the new potatoes, which is the smaller size of potatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and drop these into some boiling water. Sometimes I prefer to start my potatoes in cold water, actually, especially the larger they are. It means that it will actually begin cooking more evenly all the way through. Guys, today I started boiling early, so whatever, we're gonna go with it. We wanna make this taste salty like the ocean. So that's typically about a handful of kosher salt. So I'm gonna go ahead and begin boiling those new potatoes so that we can add them to our Nicoise salad after the fact. Next up is going to be addressing our tuna itself. So I want to peppercorn crust this. If you've ever ground pepper yourself, you probably noticed that there's a lot of little like small pieces and larger pieces. What we want is the largest cracked pieces of pepper. This is not gonna be as fiery because the more you bust into it, the more flavor you actually get. So this will kind of be tamer, even though you have larger flecks of pepper. And the best way to get rid of the extra powder, yikes, is to shake your peppercorns so that only the good stuff stays through. So I've already done that. This is only the perfect peppercorns. All right, I'm going to get myself saran wrap. This is gonna make it a lot easier when I go to crust this. And I'm gonna start by salting my fish first, and then I'll add the black peppercorns. So I'm using a nice, beautiful flaky sea salt. I'm not sponsored by Malden, but if you know me, this is my favorite salt out there. They're really large flakes. Like, look at this one. This is a perfect example. It's basically a pyramid-shaped crystal. Try to hold that. I am holding a single flake of salt, and this is not too salty. It's not gonna blow out your palate. It just kind of gives you a little bit of crunch, and I have my black peppercorns, so we're gonna put our tuna over here. We're gonna go ahead and use our hand as a guide to make sure that the salt sticks to the tuna. Again, from this side. And this one's kind of pyramid shaped, and it all depends on how you butcher it. I've peppercorn crusted pork tenderloins before using a similar method. It's a good idea to get out your saran wrap, and I've done it with beef tenderloin as well. Once I have a decent amount of pepper, I'm gonna notice that it's probably not all clinging. It's not sticking enough. That is what my saran wrap is for. I have one section here. See how it's all sticking on the bottom and none of it's on the top? So I can rotate that around. And I find that if I do this almost like a Tootsie Roll, it helps everything cling while I begin to preheat my skillet. So I'm gonna set this guy, this is my pepper crusted tuna, aside while we carry on with some of the other projects that we have. Returning to the rest of our meal. So we're gonna make a very simple lemon vinaigrette. This is a great life skill, guys. Like, I don't care if you're eating Nicoise salad or not, this is something that you're gonna wanna learn to do because you'll dress all of your greens with it. I'm going to make it into a hand blender. We're gonna use this guy. But hey guys, you could do this in a bowl with a whisk, okay? You don't need this tool, but I'll be building it in here. We're gonna add a little bit of finely minced onion. So a little bit of that goes in. Next up, we're gonna add a little bit of mustard for two reasons, guys. So mustard, great flavor, obvi, but also it's going to act as what's called an emulsifier. So that is going to help two things that don't normally play nice together, which is the oil and the lemon juice being water. It's gonna keep them from separating. So it's gonna help them get along, and it's gonna act as basically the liaison. Anytime you plan to use lemon juice, you might as well use lemon zest, which is the colorful part of the lemon. So I'm going over the surface just until I see a glimmer of white. Okay, guys, I am not going down deep into what's referred to as the pith. So I just want to use the aromatic, which smells floral, which smells citrusy. I want to use that aromatic part, but I don't want to get down to the white part, which is referred to as pith. Pith is very bitter. So we'll zest a little bit of this. It's going to really amp up the lemon flavor so that the lemon flavor comes through. And then it's going to allow me to increase the amount of lemon without making it overly acidic. Now, zest doesn't have any tart flavor. It almost is exclusively smell. So this is a great way to add lemon anytime you think, I want this to have more lemon flavor, but I don't necessarily want it to be more tart. So this is my trick sometimes when I make lemon bars and I want to add more and more lemon flavor. I'll include the zest, and then that way I don't water it down with too much extra juice or too much extra acidity. I'm not saying I don't use juice, I still use juice. Okay, so we're gonna cut this guy in half. The best way to extract juice is to cut it this way. It's like on the equator instead of cutting pole to pole. And then when you use a juicer, contrary to maybe what you used as a kid, this is not a line up the round side with the round side, because that's a recipe for juice in your face. So instead, put this cut side down, and then it's going to be easier to invert. We're basically pushing the lemon inside out to get all of the juice out. And again, got the other half. So again, what I'm making is a very simple lemon vinaigrette. And this is something that you might want to use on everything, guys. So I make salad dressings instead of buying them for multiple reasons. I can use higher quality ingredients, better quality olive oil, but it also is cheaper and just tastes better. So all of those are reason enough to go with it. We need to add a little bit of salt in everything, okay? But especially in condiments. In something like a salad dressing, you're really not going to eat that much of it. So if you don't include enough salt here, it's gonna taste kind of underwhelming in the larger application. Okay, so now we are going to create an emulsification, which sounds very fancy. It's not, guys. All we're doing is we're making the lemon juice or the vinegar, if you're making a classic vinaigrette, come together with the olive oil. First, I'm gonna whisk this to get the mustard to kind of evenly combine. Okay, and then here's my olive oil. The ratio of the perfect vinaigrette is 1 part acid, yikes, I need 2 hands for this. 1 part acid and 3 parts fat. So it's a lot more fat than it is acid. And I'm gonna eyeball this. Basically, I see what's in here and I'm gonna bring it up to about there. So with this continuously going, all right. See how this is coming together evenly and it's not one layer floating on top of the other? That's because we're making an emulsification. And that's about the constant agitation while slowly streaming in the oil. And then we have the mustard as a benefit. It's acting as an emulsifier. Okay, the best way to taste your salad dressing to decide if it tastes good, guess what? On the thing you're going to want to eat it on. So go ahead and lightly dip a leaf of lettuce and then taste to see, does it need more salt, etc. Nice. A vinaigrette should taste equally salty, rich with fat, and acidic. If it's not all 3 of those things, you're missing out, so make sure to balance accordingly. I have access to so many good herbs that are gonna go bad otherwise. So I'm also gonna teach you guys how to make a salsa verde, which is basically like a pesto, but with a different variety of herbs. And instead of using Parmesan for umami or nuts, we're actually going to use capers, and we're gonna use a little bit of tinned fish, anchovies. Now, whether you think you like anchovies or not, I really don't care. Also, you're not in my kitchen. I'm not cooking for you today. No, but really, hear me out. Give it a go. I don't expect you to like an anchovy by itself, but it's really delicious in the larger application. You won't taste fish. It's just gonna be an umami builder. So I'm gonna begin loading into a food processor all of these herbs. This is a mix of parsleys. I tend to prefer the Italian flat leaf. I have both, so whatever, we're gonna go with it. And then we're going to add a little bit of basil, because why not? That's gonna add a nice flavor as well. I would use any tender herb, guys. If you have access to chives, this is a great place for that. Tarragon, chervil, any of those softer herbs. What I mean is not rosemary, not one of those more like resinous herbs. Okay, I'm also gonna cut down a little bit of scallion here. The reason I'm cutting this is just so that it doesn't get tangled around my food processor. As I mentioned before, we're gonna add some capers. Capers are going to add this kind of salty, briny quality that goes beyond just adding salt. They're a bit more umami than just adding salt, meaning they come across as more savory. And then the big umami bomb here is our anchovies. So anchovies are gonna add salt, but they're really, really gonna add this savory quality. And in our family here, who I'm cooking for, we're big fans. So I'm using the whole 10 because I don't need to keep half of a stinky 10 in my fridge. That makes no sense. Okay, with this running again, I'm gonna slowly stream in olive oil. Wait, I lied. First, I'm gonna scrape down the side. Great tool for this is a flexible silicone spatula. All right, this is looking good. And I'll show you what I mean. So we have this beautiful bright green sauce that's gonna bring in lots of herbs, but also that umami richness that I mentioned. I'm gonna give this a taste. Obviously I can taste it on what I'm gonna try it on, just so that I don't need to get a spoon. I'm probably gonna put this more kind of on the potatoes when I go to plate. There's plenty of salt from the capers and the anchovies, but what I'm missing is some acidity. I'm gonna get a little splash of acidity going into this. So when we build sauces, especially condiment sauces, we usually think about wanting something salty, something sour, something rich, and then occasionally sauces are spicy and sweet and all these other things on top of that. But you definitely, acid, salt, and fat are the primary ways that we balance flavor. And then it's nice to play with things like heat and sweetness, even in our savory cuisine. Okay, blend that one last little bit. And now I'll taste it again. So again, this is my beautiful salsa verde. All right. Perfect. Now it has a brightness to kind of offset the umami, meaning all the sardines and all the capers. Okay. I'm gonna get my food processor out of the way here. And next up, we're gonna go check our potatoes. So the best way to know if a potato is done is, can I easily get a skewer in and back out? If you don't own one of these, it's called a spider. It's the best way to go fishing things out of boiling water. It makes life a lot easier. So again, I should be able to go easily in and come back out. I think we might be there. I'm gonna give it maybe 2 more minutes. So guess what? One of the benefits of having a big pot of water going like this is we can progressively add things. So I wanna make a soft boiled egg today. And I wanna cook it exactly 7 minutes in boiling water. You wanna start it in boiling water, not in cold water. So we're gonna go ahead and add this to the potatoes right now. We can always fish them out separately. And then we're gonna include a vegetable that's green. Traditionally, we include green beans. But hey, guess what? Didn't have them at the grocery store today, so we're gonna do sugar snap peas, which still have a little bit of crunch. They're sort of like snow peas, but they're a little bit fatter. And we're going to blanch them in this salted water. One of the benefits of blanching green vegetables is that it keeps their bright green. And this is blanching. I'm going to get ice water. Very, very important that it be icy cold. If it's not, then it's not going to chill it quickly enough. See how much ice is in this? It's mostly ice, very little water. So I'm gonna do my greens on top, and I'm only gonna cook them until I can see their green kind of becomes brighter, and I can fish one out and taste it. Is it crisp tender? Meaning, is it the level of tenderness that I was hoping for? And yes, I am doing this all together because one of the benefits of green beans is that they float. So I'm gonna be able to skim these very easily off the top. That includes green beans, sugar snap peas. They tend to float because they have a little bit of air pocket inside. Next up, while we're waiting for those, I'm gonna do a little bit of prep here. We're gonna include some radish just because we have it and it's beautiful. The thinner you slice it, the more beautiful it'll be on your platter. If you own a mandolin, this is a great time to use it. But this is gonna add a little bit of like a peppery crunch as well as beautiful flavor and color. All right, as soon as these become brighter green, we fish them out and they go into our ice water. So I'm doing that right now. The potatoes and the eggs, guys, are still in here. So I'm just using the spider to skim the surface to get all of these beautiful cooked sugar snap peas out. So make them go for a real swim in the ice water. And we want to make sure that they're truly, truly cold before we pull them out and then set them aside in another bowl. So again, today, guys, I just taught you the concept of blanching, the concept of how to make kind of a pesto or chimichurri or salsa verde sauce, meaning something that is a processed herb sauce, and how to make a lemon vinaigrette. But the larger kind of goal here is making a composed salad. We're gonna make a Nicoise salad that includes a little bit of all of those things. All of these guys go in. So there's our perfectly blanched sugar snap peas. Crispy, but they're not raw, which is important. So we're getting our potatoes the same way into our ice water. So we're chilling these a little bit. We're setting aside our radish. We've got all of our prepared items, which we refer to as mise en place, or everything is in its place. One more thing is cherry tomatoes. I want to go ahead and slice. If you're ever struggling to get through a tomato with a knife, if you just smash down, you're definitely going to smash it into oblivion. Instead, you want to cut it lengthwise like that. After this, we're going to return to that tuna. So again, I promised you a Nicoise salad. There is our pepper crusted tuna. I'm going to begin preheating a skillet to get it blazing hot. That's very important that it be as hot as possible because our goal is to sear the exterior of this tuna and not to cook it all the way through. In fact, cooking it all the way through would sort of defeat the purpose of having sashimi grade tuna, right? Okay, so you can't do a sear with low heat because in order for it to get browned on the outside, you're slowly creeping up the internal temperature. If you want the inside to still be raw, you have to use a really high temperature so you get that temperature differential across the entire tuna. Again, I'm just cutting these in half so that then they will absorb kind of more of that beautiful vinaigrette flavor. And then when we go to plate our salad, we have the interiors that we can look at, which look really beautiful, especially on something like these purple potatoes. Look at that. So if you don't want to use potatoes, I think something else that kind of comes across as starchy in a pleasant way is beans. Like I would use either larger white beans in a salad like this, or maybe chickpeas. And then that way you still have something that kind of holds on to the dressing and adds a little bit more like oomph to your Nicoise salad, so it comes across as an entree salad. And then another substitute for the green beans, as I mentioned, I use sugar snap peas, which is a great substitute in a Nicoise salad because I couldn't get green beans today. But I would also use asparagus. I think that this would be lovely with like ferns. We have access to those right now, like the fiddlehead ferns. You would lightly blanch those. But basically choose a green vegetable. Choose something that's like a little bit heavier, like either a potato or a bean. And then choose your protein, which is traditionally tuna. And so we're going to sear this bad boy, which we pepper crusted earlier. This is the loin. This is a nice high quality sashimi grade local tuna that we got. Shout out to our island right now. One of the best things about being in Kauai, guys, is that the community is really coming together to take care of each other, to feed each other. And so somebody in the neighborhood caught this fish, Somebody else broke it down and we all shared it, because that way we can move through it all before it goes bad. Okay, my pan is smoking hot. Can you see the smoke? That's important. If it's not crazy hot, this doesn't work. Use a very high smoke point oil. Avocado oil is a great idea here. We just need a little bit because I'm using a nonstick skillet. If you aren't using a nonstick skillet, be more generous with the oil so that you don't end up with stickage. If you ever have oil in a pan, be sure to load away from yourself so that it doesn't splatter. Notice I didn't cannonball from up high, I loaded it in away from me. Very important. So we're just gonna get this beautifully seared on all 3 of those sides. So we got our tuna going on in there. We're getting it nicely seared. Using tongs, rotate your tuna over. Ooh, yeah, look at that crust. That is sexy. If you want the most beautiful slices ever, what we used to do in restaurants is we would cool it completely and we'd wrap it tight in saran wrap, and then when we go to slice it, it really holds together nicely and doesn't fall apart or lose its peppercorns. But then you have to painstakingly take the saran wrap off. Not really worth it if you're just cooking for yourself, but if you care about the art of plating and taking photos and all that, it might be something to look into. Gorgeous. Okay, we're gonna let this guy rest on a plate. See how nice this looks? And I'm gonna peel my eggs. So what I like to do is a spoon trick. So I get up under the membrane here and it just helps me crack this off. So I'm not saying that this is a perfect method, but it definitely helps in comparison to just relying on my fingers. So it allows you, see how there's like a skin layer? It allows you to get under the skin too. So everything comes off in one go. So again, I hope that even though I'm teaching you to make a Nicoise salad, I'm teaching you some basic life skills about how to cook eggs, how to make a vinaigrette, how to blanch vegetables, how to sear, pepper crust and sear something, etc. Does anybody have any questions about how to make a Nicoise salad? What other substitutions you could make? Obviously for the tuna, you can use canned tuna. And in fact, they're really nice, high quality canned tunas. But I enjoy a salad like this, even with just sardines. I think that's really lovely. So other canned fish substitutes well. If all of that sounds gross to you, skip it. Use avocados, use beans, use other things. You can still make yourself a thoughtful, composed salad. Sorry. I hope that this lasts. This is awesome. Best video ever. Just rock it out. I believe that goes down on what you shouldn't do while going live. How's everybody's ears doing? Anyway, you know, live and learn. So we are gonna finish composing our salad here. I'm gonna get my tuna nice and sliced. Be careful, as I mentioned before, it can be easier to slice this. Oh yeah, look at that nice cross section. Woo-wee, sexy. It can be easier to slice if you let this cool completely first. So I'm just gonna cut a couple pieces for myself, and then later it'll be easier to slice the rest of this for my little fam here. So I have 3 beautiful slices there. Chef's treat. It's really peppery, but it's not blowing out my palate. It's not too strong. I like to toss each component very lightly and then plate it. So I'm gonna do a little bit of greens here. Very, very light, because greens aren't very dense, right? So they're not going to hold a lot of dressing, or they'll get soggy, rather. Hands are the best tool, I swear, when it comes to arranging a salad. So we're gonna get a nice pile of greens going. I'm doing this slightly off center so that there's room in the front of my plate to showcase some things like that jammy egg and the nice tuna. I like to toss my green beans, whatever amount of green beans or sugar snap peas with vinaigrette, because that's just gonna taste better. No reason to put them on the plate undressed. Again, using my hand. And I'm gonna go ahead and pile those up in a section. I'm gonna do a little bit of our tomato. And again, this is 100% up to you, what combination of things you wanna do. I'm just showing you kind of what the classic is, but just because you don't have cherry tomatoes doesn't mean that you can't eat a Nicoise salad or a beautiful compost salad. And then we're gonna get our potatoes. I like to kind of lightly dress them in both dressings. So remember how I mentioned that we made that beautiful salsa verde? So we're gonna roll these around first in the lemon vinaigrette. And then we're gonna go ahead and put some of those here onto the platter. That's looking good. And we're gonna get a few radishes strewn about. This is looking gorgeous, guys. Check her out. And then we're gonna get that beautiful tuna. And don't forget about a nice egg. And last but not least, we're gonna get all of this beautiful salsa verde on there, which is sort of looking like a pesto, right? I like to put a little bit of that onto the plate. I put it next to the potatoes because that's primarily what I'm gonna wanna add it on. I feel like potatoes are always just in desperate need of extra sauce. They're just begging for it. And because I have it, why the heck not, a few microgreens. How gorgeous and sexy. All right, olives. Mom, what would I ever do without you? Of course it's my mom. I have olives. I was just leaving them out. Okay, and not intentionally. I'm a big olive fan. If you're not an olive fan, doesn't mean that you can't enjoy Nicoise salad, so don't worry about it. So we're gonna add a few of those onto the plate as well. We have all of these beautiful components that pair really well. We have our pepper crusted tuna, which could be canned tuna. We have some Kalamata olives. We have our blanched but vinaigrette dressed sugar snap peas, similarly vinaigrette dressed cherry tomatoes, lettuces, radishes, new potatoes that have been boiled, salsa verde, soft boiled egg. Voila. Anyway, hope everybody's having a good lockdown, whatever that means. But do your best, and enjoy beautiful meals. This is one of the benefits of all of us being at home right now. Thanks so much.